Welcome to Pimpy's Investment Chat, where we keep investment talk simple. And here's your host, Pimpy.
What is going on out there, peeps? Okay, so I've made plenty of videos educating people as much as possible about things we need to look for when it comes to increasing the exchange rate of the Iraqi Dinar, despite all the hoopla out there that other content creators lying to you guys about. My concerns were the amount of money per barrel of oil that Iraq had calculated for in their budget. And this is an issue, you guys, because not only does it put them in a deficit if that dollar amount is not reached, but if it gets way out of whack, you know what Iraq does? And you could go back into history and find this out. They devalue the Iraqi dinar. Yeah. So you got people out there going, yeah, man, this next budget, they're going to increase the value. When they're now talking about possibly devaluing the Iraqi dinar. Now, that's not set in stone, but it is something that they're contemplating. And I'm not saying they're going to do it. I'm just saying it's on their mind. It really, really depends on how far down oil prices drop. So in my opinion, what they should do in the 2024 budget is amend the price per barrel that they had calculated for so that they don't have to devalue their currency, nor do they have to borrow externally. The other issue that I told you guys that is a concern is uprisings. You can't have other nations bombing targets inside your country. Recently, Iraq has had that. In addition, just recently, a few hours ago, Iranian-backed militia groups attacked the airbase, and they've now injured U.S. soldiers. So what the United States is going to look for is quick response to these actions. In other words, let me interpret that for you. An excuse to put more boots on the ground in Iraq. Look, Iran is the target of the United States. It always has been. This would just be an excuse to go in there and then go after them, if that is the case. So anyways, let's get into this so you can see what I am talking about. Before we get started, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I certainly do appreciate it. If you're thinking about buying gold and silver, head on over to our friends at Miles Franklin. The link will be down below in the description. When you make your purchase, make sure you use promo code Pimpy, P-I-M-P-Y, and they'll take care of you. If you have any additional questions, you can reach us over here at this phone number or over here at this particular email. For all orders over $10,000, reach out by email and we'll make sure that you get a great deal. So come on over to Miles Franklin and add to your precious metal inventory. So this was earlier today. Iranian-linked militia strikes Iraqi base housing U.S. troops. Iranian-backed militants attacked an air base housing U.S. and Iraqi troops in western Iraq on Saturday, U.S. Central Command said. The latest incident targeting U.S. forces as tensions flare up over Israel's war in Gaza. Now, here's something interesting that they have not mentioned in other news before. So it isn't just that they attacked U.S. soldiers, but on that same base is Iraqi soldiers. Now, I've mentioned this several times where protesters have risen up against the government because they know they're Iranian-backed politicians. They do not want any Iranian-backed politicians running the government. For this very reason, Iran feels emboldened to do whatever the hell they feel like when they feel like. I'm wondering how long this is going to take before they start seeing uprisings in Iraq. That's what we don't want. The militants fired rockets and ballistic missiles at the air base in Iraq's Anbar province around 6:30 p.m. local time. CENTCOM said in a statement, most of the missiles were intercepted by the base's air defense system, the statement said, adding that some landed and at least one Iraqi service member was wounded. This is not good, man. These are Iraqi citizens being attacked by Iranian-backed militants with an Iranian-backed government. Do you see the dilemma here? So after a while, the people are not going to care what kind of progress al-Sudani is making if they can't protect their own citizens, as well as their military personnel. U.S. personnel were being evacuated from traumatic brain injuries, according to CENTCOM, which did not respond to a request for comment on whether any U.S. troops were wounded. I think they just did. The attack was claimed by the Islamic Resistance in Iraq, a coalition that includes militants backed by Iran, In a statement, the group said the strike was part of a broader resistance against the presence of U.S. troops in Iraq, as well as response to Israel's military campaign in Gaza. About 2,500 troops are deployed in Iraq to help combat remnants of the Islamic State, and roughly 900 are operating in Syria, where they advise and assist the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces. Not what we want, you guys. This is exactly the issue that Iraq constantly has. They cannot stay out of conflicts, and a big chunk of them are at no fault of their own. But when you have Iranian-backed politicians running your government and Iran is bombing targets in your country, what kind of retaliation can you expect from this government? They'll just talk a good talk and write a firm letter, but there's nothing else they're going to do. This article is a little older, but I thought it was important to mention. The oscillation in the value of the Iraqi dinar against the US dollar is primarily linked to Iraq's oil-dependent economy and trade imbalances with neighboring countries, particularly those restricted by US sanctions, such as Iran. To address these challenges, the Central Bank of Iraq is actively seeking permission from the US Federal Reserve to streamline the timely transfers of oil revenues within the country and establish mechanisms for transactions with neighboring Iran in currencies other than the US dollar. These strategic measures are anticipated to lead to the appreciation of the Iraqi dinar against the US dollar, aligning with the target set by the Central Bank of Iraq. So it's not like the reforms can't help, but if they don't follow through on everything they need to do, it could be a big problem. A comprehensive analysis of the supply and demand dynamics of the US dollar in Iraq sheds light on a depreciation of the Iraqi dinar against the dollar. Iraq's oil revenues, constituting 90% of the country's revenue, are predominantly earned in dollars, forming the foundation for reserves. However, the demand for the dollars in Iraq is fueled by the widespread imports of goods, services, and domestic necessities, with the US dollar and euro being the preferred international currency for these transactions. Recent initiatives implemented by the Central Bank of Iraq in collaboration with the U.S. Federal Reserve include the introduction of an electronic platform for foreign remittance, connecting Iraq's banks to the International Interbank Network, SWIFT. I had people commenting under the video, man, SWIFT's going away. No, it's not. They just launched an updated version of it in March of 2023. It is ISO 222 compliant, so all that stuff that you've been hearing about and all the hype and the Sarah arenas, that's another issue over there. So basically what Iraq is doing right now is making sure they do everything necessary to be reinstated on the SWIFT system. That would be probably one of the biggest hurdles they can ever get over if you want to see an increased value in the Iraqi dinar exchange. This platform aims to monitor the movement of dollars transferred from the U.S. to Iraq and subsequently to other countries for commercial purposes. The Federal Reserve's concerns center around preventing the flow of dollars from Iraq to countries sanctioned by Washington, such as Iran, Syria, and Lebanon. The activation of the electronic platform, coupled with the stringent scrutiny of remittances, has led to an increased demand for the U.S. dollar in the free or parallel market. Delays in the approval process for money transfers through the electronic platform have created challenges for the merchants, even those with legal transactions and necessary documents, resulting in rejections. This has prompted some traders to explore alternative means of transferring dollars, contributing to the demand for the parallel exchange market. Despite the Central Bank of Iraq's restrictions on dollar remittance to Iran, imports from Iran to Iraq have seen an increase. Hussaini, a board member of the Iran-Iraq Joint Chamber of Commerce, told the news earlier this month that in 2022, Iran's total exports to Iraq reached $11 billion, with $6.5 billion going towards goods imported by the Iraqi private sector. The funds for those goods are often transferred in U.S. dollars through currency exchange offices or a third country before reaching Iran, further driving the demand for the dollar in the Iraqi parallel exchange market. Iraq's trade balance has remained positive in recent years due to the high oil prices, covering both government expenditures and the cost of daily imports. In years when oil prices fell, the Iraqi government has typically devalued the Iraqi dinar against the U.S. dollar to address budget deficits. Let me repeat this. In years when oil prices fell, the Iraqi government has typically devalued the dinar against the US dollar to address budget deficits. Now, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but what I'm saying is something we should at least keep an eye on, because this is something that they've done in the past. So as you can see right here, the Brent crude oil currently is at $78.64 per barrel, and it has been going up, which is a good thing for Iraq. So we really don't want to see the price of oil going down, because it will affect Iraq. The recent move by the Central Bank of Iraq to enhance private banks' dollar reserves and facilitate direct remittances under the supervision of the Federal Reserve could potentially stabilize the Iraqi dinar by increasing the supply of dollars on the domestic market. Conversely, strained relations between the Central Bank of Iraq, the Iraqi government, and the U.S. government, along with increased sanctions on Iran, could further depreciate the dinar against the U.S. dollar. It is noteworthy that the Central Bank of Iraq plans to discontinue the use of the U.S. dollar in domestic transactions from the beginning of this next year, because this article was at the end of last year, but it still applies. And we know this is something that they're already doing. It says, marking the initiation of the removal of the currency from the domestic market and weakening the parallel exchange market in Iraq. The CBI considers the exchange rate of the U.S. dollar in the parallel market as deceptive and contends that it has adequately supplied the necessary dollars in the local market for all legal transactions. So look, there is a lot of good news out there for Iraq. But you can't just keep reporting the good news and saying that's the reason why it's going to be reinstated at the 322 rate. There's no way they can carry out all these projects because they can't afford to. That's a lie. They've already calculated in their budget the necessary money needed to do these projects, and they did it at the current rate. So don't fall for that crap. But like I was saying, you can't just hear good news and not the bad news. You have to hear it all, and you have to have an understanding of how that affects the Iraqi dinar exchange rate. Anyways, that's it for now. I look forward to hearing from you. I'm out.